February 23rd, 2015 meeting of the Public Safety Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Ansello.
Here.
Mr. Barra. Here. Ms. Boyce. Here. Mr. Howland. Here. Mr. Willie Lightfoot. Here. Mr. Marionetti. Here. Mr. Michike. Here. Mr. Morelli. Here. Mr. Yolovich.
Is there anyone signed up for the public forum?
There is. When I call your name, please come forward to the podium. You will have 2 minutes and only 2 minutes in which to address the committee. Please conclude when the buzzer sounds. Thank you. Our speaker tonight is Tom Gregory.
I'd like to say something about there was a man who died at the county lockup, or perhaps he was incarcerated. I don't watch the newspaper very much. One of the things I caught when I was watching the grieving family was on the back of the wall, there was a picture of the family. And I don't know if the man who died was the United States Marine, but there was a Marine that served in that family. And the first thought that came to my mind was, I don't know if a person goes out and serves their country in that capacity, expecting to die in the way this person did die. But that raises a question, because as you know, I've been with this legislature for at least five separate legislatures, and I know that we had this one time before. And I'm not saying this is not to disparage the sheriff. I believe the sheriff is doing all they can over there. I really do believe that. As you know, I talk to a lot of people. I'm always asking questions. I'm not shy. And I've spoken to enough people, and I have to seriously wonder and question whether we're giving the sheriff's department the adequate support that department needs to have to supervise and to maintain the health of the people who are our charges. They are our charges. They are in our custody. And I think there's a special responsibility we have for anybody who's incarcerated in that environment. And the thing that concerns me, here again, is not the sheriff's office. But as you know, we've been trying to cut here and cut there, and by golly gosh, we've cut about as narrow as we can. And I've spoken to enough people in not just the sheriff's department, but in many of the separate departments. And my question is simply this here. Is it time for us to look at some way to raise additional revenues to support these departments, especially the departments who we have people in our charge? We are responsible for them. They are our wards. I think we have to start looking at the mantra when we say no more taxes, no more taxes, no more taxes, and maybe start thinking about what the costs are, not only in the sheriff's department, but in all the other county departments where we're just on the fringes here, and we're not giving the service perhaps that as a county we should be giving. I want to raise that. And in closing, one more thing. I know we had this happen one time before, and you know, the sheriff was put up right there on the freaking block and made to look kind of not good. I would say that this is our responsibility as a county legislature, and I'd say it's our responsibility as a county executive, because that's where the policies start, where we're not putting those monies over there. So that's my opinion. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone present who's not signed up to speak who would like to address the committee at this time? Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the January 26, 2015 minutes before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. Before we move on to new business, Sheriff O'Flynn is here to brief the committee on the recent death of an inmate in the Monroe County Jail. And since this matter includes criminal charges and are pending prosecution, I'll entertain a motion to move into an executive session. Moved by Legislator Boyce, seconded by Legislator Lightfoot. All those in favor? Okay. We'll now move into executive session. Next item on the agenda is new business.
Referral 15-0068.
Moved by Legislator Michikay and seconded by Legislator Boyce. Is there any discussion? Legislator Barat.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, I have a couple questions on this referral, not least because, I mean, it's quite an increase in the grant. I'm not complaining about that. Anytime we get an increase of about 100% of the grant, I'm excited. I guess my question is, was there a particular reason why we received this large increase this year, over the past 3-year term, I mean?
Tim Donaher, through the chair, I'm sorry, could you repeat the last part of that question?
Because it's an increase of about, well, 1.5 million, so a little under 50%. Is there a reason why we got such a large increase over the prior 3-year term?
Through the chair, yes, there is. Actually, this is the 4th in a series of what had been 3-year grants in the amount of approximately 1.5 million, coupled with a renewal of the first 3-year grant we received in 2012 to run through 2015. So in some sense, this amount reflects actually 2 separate 3-year grants in the amount of 1.579 million.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. And then of the referral lists, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new positions. Were these positions included in the authorized positions of the 2015 budget?
When you say, through the chair, when you say 5 authorized positions, there would be 4 for the Office of the Public Defender, 1 for the Office of Conflict Defender.
Yes.
I can't speak for the Conflict Defender, but for the Public Defender, no, those would be new grade 15s, not reflected.
Okay. And does that mean, through the chair of the administration, that this naturally needs to be amended?
Well, through the chair, as grade 15s, I don't believe the budget would need to be amended.
I don't know.
Through the chair, it's my understanding that because they're grade 15s, the Civil Service Commission would create those positions, not the legislature.
Okay, that makes sense. Then I have one final question. Along with these new positions, there was also, quote, funding for the appeals backlog reduction program included as well. And my question is, how much of the funding is going towards the appeals backlog reduction program?
Through the chair, there are actually, both offices have an appeals backlog reduction program. For the Public Defender's Office, in the upcoming year 1 of this grant, which would be the current year, it would be $70,000 additional funding. There has been monies dedicated to this program in previous grants.
Thank you. Okay, that surprises me just a little bit. All right, so my understanding was on this referral through the chair is that essentially this additional grant, this second grant, was providing $1.5 million over the course of 3 years, or about $500,000 per year, which makes sense if you think about 5 positions with fringe benefits and all that good stuff. $100,000 a year, okay, that's ballpark. But now you mentioned that $70,000 of just from the Public Defender is going towards the grant, the appeals backlog reduction program, and presumably a similar amount as well on the Public Defender side. So I guess my question is there an additional source of funding for these 5 new positions aside from this grant?
Through the chair, no. This grant, again, is a total grant of over $3 million. It's actually to continue the positions that were previously funded in the first 3-year grant in 2012. The increased funding of $1.579 million will pay for the the additional positions in the Public Defender's Office and the Conflict Defender's Office, as well as the appellate backlog reduction.
Okay. And one final question. You mentioned for the Conflict Defender about $70,000 for the backlog reduction. Would you happen to know what the amount on the backlog reduction program would be for the Public Defender's Office?
Through the chair, actually, in year one, the $70,000 is for the Public Defender's Office. For the Conflict Defender's Office appellate backlog, in year one of this grant is $90,399, and in years 2 and 3, it's $12,097 in each of 2 and 3.
Wow. Interesting. I thank you. I'm going to have to look into this some more because those numbers do surprise me just because I'm not sure how we're paying for these positions now with all those funds going to this. But that being said, I may have questions about this at full edge, but right now I'll be voting for it. Thank you.
Any further questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the item carries. And next item, please.
Referral 15-0069.
Moved by legislator Boyce and seconded by legislator Howland. Is there any discussion? Legislator Boyce?
Through the chair, I know this is not the first time we've passed this, but I've always been curious as to what what Operation Stone Garden does entail. Is there like a descriptive of that through the feds?
Does that come in? Through the chair, Jennifer Curley from the Sheriff's Office. The description would be, they want the federal agencies, state agencies, and local agencies to all work together and put together what's called an APS order. And the APS operation order is from the U.S. Department of the Customs, Border Patrol. Oh, turn this? Is that better? Is that better? All right. So it's based on an operations order, which takes all those agencies, and we target areas that Border Patrol finds illegal aliens, or so it's based on what they feel we need to do. So we really don't have any say on where we're going to do the patrols. We're just supporting them.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, legislator Lightfoot.
Mr. Chairman, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, why the increase in such a large decrease, from last year's allocation?
Through the chair, the state police, usually, because all different counties get this funding, and the state police were getting funding from Orleans County, but this year they took the funding from Monroe County because they want to do more Monroe County operations. So we had to share it with the New York State Police and the New York State Park Police, so they got a little bit more of a share of it.
Okay, and thank you, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration. You mentioned that we don't really determine what areas we're patrolling. It's determined by the Fed and the Border Patrol. I do know that a lot of areas Border Patrol does, they do look at, like the Charlotte area. I know they spend a lot of time out there. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, we did get qualified because of certain borders. So do we at least have some idea of what the areas that we patrolled last year? Let's put it like that. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration.
Are you asking?
What areas, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, did we
We patrol the whole county. We patrol the whole county, so we can do the entire. So it doesn't have to be right along the border because we have areas where they're coming in. Gotcha. Obviously, the thruway, 490, 590, 390.
Okay.
Yes.
And through my final question, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, in here on paragraph 3, line number 3, it says funds shall be used to increase the operational capabilities. What operational capabilities will be increased? Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration.
Through the chair, those are Border Patrol capabilities. We're assisting them. So if we didn't have this funding, we would not be conducting these details.
Is that for overtime? Is that towards salaries? Is that towards equipment?
Through the chair, for this year, it's for overtime, and fringes will be covered, which is retirement and FICA of those fringes.
How many members, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, are on that we assisting?
Through the chair, how many?
Border Patrol.
Border Patrol is who we're assisting, but U.S. Customs could be there, New York State Police, Coast Guard, the Park Police, so FBI,
Oh, okay.
Greece, Webster, anyone can be on it.
So the overtime that we're paying through the grant could go to any numerous amount of people who are involved with this process. Is that what I'm understanding?
I'm only requesting funding for us. I wouldn't be doing Greece or
Who's us? I'm still confused.
the sheriff's office, the county, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office.
Right. So the overtime, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, is going towards the sheriff office overtime, correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
And how many individuals on the sheriff department are working on this project?
Oh, through the chair, the details could be 4 guys, it could be 5 guys, it can be 3 days, it could be 4 days. So, I mean, it's a volunteer basis, so they can sign up. We don't force people to do it, so they can sign up to do it. And it's based on the number of people that they want for the detail. Generally 4 to 5 people a detail.
Is there special training through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, which allows where it can't be a whole lot of volunteers, maybe only 10 people in the department may be trained to do this?
Through the chair, there's no special training.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion?
They're pulling on the cars.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 15-0070.
Moved by Legislator Holland and seconded by Legislator Marionetti. Is there any discussion? Yes, Legislator Lightfoot.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The grant is for $31,000. It requires a local match estimated at $12,500 for fringe benefits. What strategies are employed to reduce thefts? Through you, Mr. Chairman, to administration.
To the Chair, Commander Phelps, and the Sheriff's Office. The Motor Vehicle Insurance Fraud Theft Grant is a statewide is planned on a statewide level to interdict insurance fraud, particularly vehicles. Over the past 10 years, the grant has had roughly an 80% reduction rate in auto theft within Monroe County, so it's been very successful. The strategy is to share data and use analytics to identify key trends in auto theft, and then identify the key offenders and target them for surveillance and other interdiction techniques, and working with the DA's office, the RPD, state police, in the towns. Details are then executed, looking for high-risk persons, and very frequently arrests are made. The most noteworthy case this year involved a catalytic converter case that was connected to the Bronx, which produced a great success, and that led to the recovery of $18,000 worth of ATVs that have been stolen from Monroe County. It's all through a coordinated effort.
And final question, first of all, it's great to hear that the 80% reduction through the grant. That's awesome, good work. To you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, I know one year you told us, it may not have been you, but one of the people from the administration, that vans would seem to be the #1 sought-after vehicle. Has that changed? What is the #1? And if you don't know this, it's okay, but I just want to make sure I'm buying the right car. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration,
If you,
what is the #1 stolen vehicle in Monroe County?
yeah, through the chair, actually, it's your smaller Asian cars. The Toyotas.
Toyota? Ah, man.
Sorry, even though they have some of the better, theft device, but the Camry, the Honda Accord are very popular vehicles. But our trends locally don't really necessarily follow that. Our cars are stolen because the keys are in them, parked outside a gas station. Could be any car. In the suburbs are stolen because you left the keys in the visor outside your house, and we don't have any crime there, so it shouldn't get stolen. And oddly enough, we do. And it depends on who the suspect is, and a lot of it's just luck.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? Legislator Brown.
Thanks. Through the Chair of the Administration, I just have one very quick question. Am I correct to assume that because there's a match requirement of $12,500 for fringe benefits, that the $31,000 essentially is for salary?
That's correct. Through the chair, that's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the item carries. And last item, please.
Referral 15-0071.
Moved by Legislator Marionetti, seconded by Legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion? Legislator Morelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the administration, to the District Attorney's Office, this grant obviously has been passed for several years. Is there a report that could be generated as to the number of cases that have been prosecuted, or rather investigated and prosecuted, and have led to convictions over the past few years?
Through the chair, Dave Marion with the District Attorney's Office. Yes, we are required every quarter, 4 times a year, to report to DCJS all the results of our efforts, and the prosecution statistics with regard to indictments and convictions are all included in those reports. So I can produce those reports as far back, I believe, as 2004, and provide them for you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the item carries. Are there any other matters to come before this committee? There being no other matters, the February 23rd, 2015 meeting of the Public Safety Committee stands adjourned, and the next meeting of the Public Safety Committee will be held on Monday, March 23rd, 2015 at 5:30 p.m. Thank you.